Hi, today is June 14th, 2026, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 915 for the year, Go Knicks. And the people said, Go Knicks, and the Knicks went. They came, they saw, they conquered. The train kept a-rollin' on down to San Antone, where the Knicks wore the spurs for hats. It is not normally a good idea to wear spurs for a hat, but the Knicks knew what they were doing, and they did it. Poem number 916, What They Deserve. As I said a few days ago, I don't usually give a fuck about sports. Of course, after I said that, I wrote 5 poems about the Knicks, and today is a Sunday, a 7-poem day. If any team deserves 12 poems, I suppose it would be the 2026 Knicks. But even if the Knicks deserve 12 poems, that doesn't mean they deserve 12 poems by me. If I were to write 12 poems about the Knicks might reasonably ask what they had done to deserve such a horrible fate. What they deserve is a trophy, which they got, and a parade, which they will get, and that should more than compensate the Knicks for these wretched poems. Poem number 917, A Difference That Matters Only to Me. My reference to Johnny Cash in today's first poem reminds me of Jonathan Lethem's reference to Jonathan Richman. Letham has been writing amusing musings about the NBA Finals on the New York Review of Books webpage, which I hope and assume will appear in the next issue. In his essay on the second game, he notes that as most, if not all, of the readers had already seen the game, there was no need for a play-by-play. Then, quoting Jonathan said, "So let's now go, and as Jonathan Richman and the modern lovers advise, fly into the mystery." This bothers me for a few reasons. First of all, it's generic. Letham could have quoted anybody for the idea of mystery. Second, it's really just Jonathan who does the advising. The modern lovers just play the instruments. Thirdly, while Letham is quoting the title of the song, Jonathan never sings the lyric, "Fly into the mystery," in that or any other song. What he sings is, "Fly into life's mystery." This is a difference that probably matters only to me. Poem number 918, but it does matter to me. In Jonathan Letham's writings on the NBA Finals, he describes himself as a weak Knicks fan. In fact, the title of what will be a collection of 6 entries, there is a prologue, is Confessions of a Fair-Weather Knicks Fan. Now, I don't want to accuse anyone of being a weak Jonathan Richman fan, but maybe Letham is as weak for Jonathan as he is for the Knicks. Although he references a deep cut, it is possible that he first heard "Fly into Life's Mystery" from the Luna cover, or it is possible that he first learned about Jonathan from the Farrelly brothers, who featured Jonathan in There's Something About Mary, thus spawning a fuckload of Johnny-come-lately hipster Jonathan Richman fans. Sounds like I'm picking a fight with Jonathan Letham, like maybe I'm jealous because his name has the exact same meter as Jonathan Richman. That would be stupid of me, but I never said I wasn't stupid. Poem number 919, What Counts? Do poems about Jonathan Letham's Knicks blog count as poems about the Knicks? Does a poem about whether poems about Jonathan Letham's Knicks blog count as poems about the Knicks count as a poem about the Knicks? I'm going to have to say yes on both counts, otherwise I'd have a lot more poems to write. Poem number 920, Please Don't. It's far more likely that I know people who know Jonathan Letham than I know people who know anyone on the Knicks. So I'd like to ask that if anyone I know knows Jonathan Letham, please don't tell him about these poems, as I'd be embarrassed if he found out about them. On the other hand, if anyone I know knows anyone on the Knicks and tells them about these poems, I wouldn't give a fuck. But I would like to think that if, say, Jalen Brunson were to find out about these poems and about Jonathan Letham's blog, that he'd much prefer what Letham has to say. I certainly do. I'd send you a link, but it's paywalled. And the last poem of the day, poem number 921, Thanks. I'd like to thank the Knicks for winning the NBA Finals and giving me shit to write about. In particular, I'd like to thank Jalen Brunson, who, as Jonathan Letham pointed out in the New York Review of Books, gave up $113 million to enable the organization to sign the players around him. And I'd like to thank Jonathan Richman, who I have been a strong fan of since 1978. And I'd like to thank Jonathan Letham, too, even though I truly hope he never finds out about this. All right, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you. Go Knicks.